Scat by Carl Hyacin. Chapter 2. As they were walking home from the bus stop, Nick told Marta, "It's not over between those two. You just wait." "I'm so glad there's no class tomorrow," she said. "I can't deal with it. She's a witch and he's a total moron." The science classes were taking an all-day field trip to the Black Vine Swamp, which was way out near the Big Cypress Preserve. Miss Starch herself had picked the location, describing it as a full of photosynthesis. The swamp had exotic orchards and ancient cypress trees, but Nick was going to see a panther. "We'll probably catch malaria from mosquitoes," Marta said, "but it can't be more painful than her stupid biology class." Nick laughed. "We haven't had rain for 2 weeks. There won't be mosquitoes. Spiders then. Whatever." Marta waved and turned up the driveway of her house. Nick lived 3 blocks away in the same subdivision. His house was actually closer to the bus stop, but lately he had been taking the long way home so that he could walk with Marta. From the front step, she called back to him, "Hey, you think he'll show up for the field trip?" "Smoke. Who else?" Nick said, "I hope not." "Me too." Marta waved once more and disappeared through the doorway. As soon as Nick got home, he hurried to the computer in the den and checked his email. He was waiting to hear from his father, a captain in the National Guard, who for the last 7 months had been stationed in the Anbar province of Iraq. Nick's dad emailed almost every morning, but Nick and his mother hadn't heard from him in 3 days. This had happened before, when his father was on a field mission with his unit. Nick tried not to let himself worry. His mom was a guard at the Collier County Jail. She got off work at 4:30 in the afternoon and was usually home by 5:15 at the latest. Nick stayed at the computer researching an English paper and rechecking his email every few minutes. By the time his mother came in the door, he still heard nothing from his father. "How was your day?" his mom asked. Some kid ate Miss Starch's pencil. You wouldn't believe it," Nick said. "Gobbled it right out of her hand." "Any particular reason?" "He was mad, I guess. She made fun of a big old gnarly zit on his neck." 14. Page 14. Nick's mother sent her purse heavily on the kitchen counter. "Tell me again why we're spending all this money on a private school." "Wasn't my idea," Nick reminded her. "Smaller classes? That was one reason. And better teachers, you said." "So we'd been told." "And low freak factor," Nick added. "Right," his mother frowned. "And now you're telling me there's a boy in biology who thinks he's a termite." "More like a beaver," Nick said. "Miss Starch shouldn't have made fun of him. He's not a kid you want to mess with." Nick's mother took a bottle of V8 juice from the refrigerator and emptied it into a small glass. "What's the pencil eater's name?" She asked. "Dwayne Scrod." "You don't know him?" "Spelled Scrod, Nick said. "Yeah, that's right. Then it's Dwayne Scrod Jr. I know his father, Dwayne Sr., from the jail." Nick's mom nodded. "He did 6 months for burning down a Chevy dealership in Port Charlotte, all because of his Tom blew a transmission in Alligator Alley." No wonder the kid turned out the way he did, Nick thought. His old man was a whack job. What's for dinner? Nick asked his mother. Spaghetti, spaghetti, or spaghetti? I guess I'll try spaghetti. Excellent choice. Hey, did Dad email you at work today? No. How about you? Not yet. His mother managed to smile. Don't worry. He's probably away from the base camp. I'll go look at the computer again. Let's eat first, Nicky. You know what? I'm not really in the mood for pasta. Why don't we go out for some barbecue? You sure, Mom? Sure as can be, she said, finishing off the juice. What time is it in Iraq right now? Like 1:30 in the morning? Oh, then he's probably asleep. Yeah, I bet he's sleeping. I bet we'll hear from him tomorrow. The headmaster, Dr. Dressler, was neat and cautious and mild-spoken. He was happiest when Truman School ran smoothly and harmony was in the air. He was unhappiest when students and the faculty were buzzing and distracted. Tell me exactly what happened, he said to Miss Starch. She held up a half-eaten pencil. The young man has serious anger control issues, she said. Dr. Dressler examined the evidence. Are you sure he didn't spit the rest out? Oh, no, he swallowed it, Miss Starch reported. Most definitely. Why didn't you send him to the nurse's station? Because he stormed out of my classroom, she said, adding with disapproval. 16 minutes before the bell. 16 full minutes. The splinters can be harmful to his internal organs. I'm well aware of that, Dr. Dressler. The boy's parents should be notified as soon as possible and informed at the same time of his disruptive and unacceptable actions. Of course, Dr. Dressler said uneasily. Like everyone else at the Truman School, he tried to avoid Miss Starch whenever possible. Ever since taking the headmaster's job, he heard strange stories. She lived alone, yet no one seemed to know whether she was divorced or she was a widow. According to one rumor, her house was filled with dead animals such as skunks and raccoons. According to other gossip, she kept 53 snakes as pets, including a diamondback rattler. Officially, Miss Starch's private life was none of Dr. Dressler's business. As a teacher, she was punctual, thorough, and hard-working. Students might be afraid of Miss Starch, but they also learned plenty from her. Truman classes always scored exceptionally on biology questions in the PSATs and the SATs. Still, Dr. Dressler couldn't help but wonder if any of the weird tales about Miss Starch were true. He found himself uncomfortable in her presence, probably because Miss Starch was so large and imposing and spoke to him as if he were a half-witted nephew. She said, I'll be happy to phone Dwayne's parents myself. That's all right. You've got the field trip tomorrow. We've already packed and ready to go, Dr. Dressler. Good. Very good, he said impassively. But I'll contact the schools. It's my responsibility. Oh, really? I don't mind, Miss Starch said, a bit too cheerily. Let me handle it, please. Miss Starch rose to leave. Dr. Dressler carefully sealed the mangled remains of the pencil into a plastic baggie of the type used for sandwiches. The pencil was in my hands when he attacked it. He could have easily nipped off my fingers, Miss Starch said. I assume disciplinary measures will be taken. The Truman School had a detailed code of conduct for students, but offhand the headmaster couldn't think of a rule that applied to eating a teacher's pencil. He supposed it fell under the category of unruly behavior. What promoted Dwayne to do something like this? He asked Miss Starch. He became angry when I asked him to write a paper, she explained. And the reason I asked him to write a paper was that he failed to do a class reading assignment. As a result, he was unable to discuss the study material when called upon. I see. Dr. Dressler opened a drawer and deposited the baggie containing the mangled pencil into it. By the way, would you be coming along on our field trip? Miss Starch asked. You can ride with me. I'm afraid I can't, the headmaster replied quickly. I've got a board meeting in the morning. Board of Trustees. And if there's not a meeting, Dr. Dressler thought, I'll arrange one. He was not an outdoor person, and his contact with nature was limited to glimpses of wildlife on Animal Planet, while he flipped channels between cooking shows. Dr. Dresser was certain that any place called Black Vine Swamp was no place he wanted to be. You don't know what you're missing, Miss Starch told him. I'm sure you're right. After she left his office, Dr. Dressler phoned the Scrod household. A man answered, growled something that Dr. Dressler couldn't understand, and hung up. Perplexed, Dr. Dressler pulled out the file of Dwayne Scrooge Jr. It showed the boy had been held back 2 years in elementary and later was expelled from a public middle school for fighting with his PE teacher. During that scuffle, the teacher lost 3 teeth, the tip of his right pinky, which Dwayne had gnawed off and consumed. Dr. Dressler thought, there seems to be a pattern here. The mystery of how a person such as Dwayne Jr. got accepted to the Truman School was solved when Dr. Dressler came across a letter from the previous headmaster reflecting a large cash donation from Dwayne's wealthy grandmother, who was paying his tuition. Dr. Dresser concluded that it would be bad for the Truman School and its future endowments if young Dwayne became seriously ill from devouring Miss Starch's pencil. He put away the file and somewhat wearily headed for the parking lot, where he got into his car and used his nifty new dashboard GPS, made his way to the address of Mr. Dwayne Scrooge Sr. The unpainted blockhouse sat on an unpaved road through some pine scrubs on the outskirts of Naples. By the time Dr. Dressler arrived, the sun had set, and the woods were humming with night insects. In the driveway sat numerous vehicles, none of them well maintained. There was a battered pickup truck, a motorcycle with crooked handlebars, mud-splattered ATV on blocks, a dented minivan missing 2 doors, and an SUV upon which someone had painted in bright orange letters, Boycott Smithers Chevy. Although no lights were on inside, the front windows were open. Dr. Dresser could hear classical music, which he found encouraging. It was Bach Concerto. When the headmaster straightened his necktie and rang the bell, when no one responded, Dr. Dresser began to knock. Eventually, a lean, unshaven man appeared at the screen door. He wore hunting garb, a red trucker's cap, and no shoes. You from the government? The man pointed aggressively at Dr. Dressler with a pair of rusty pliers. If you hear about the taxes, don't be surprised if I pull off your lips and feed 'em my bird. I got a macaw speaks 3 languages. Dr. Dressler resisted the impulse to run away. I'm from the Truman School, he stammered. Are you Dwayne's father? I am, the man said. How about some ID? Nervously, Dr. Dressler drew a business card from the inner pocket of his suit jacket. Dwayne Sr. snatched the card and disappeared for several minutes. When he returned, a large bird with brilliant blue and gold plumage was perched on his left shoulder. With its crusty, hooked beak, the macaw was shredding Dr. Dressler's card. Dwayne Sr. opened the screen door and propped it ajar with one knee. "So, what did DJ do now?" he asked. "DJ? Dwayne Jr. I know he must have done something bad because A, you're here, B, he's not. You want to come inside?" Dr. Dressler shook his head politely and said, "No thanks. Your son has what I would call a disagreement with one of his teachers, a homework issue, from what I understand. And this is front page news." When Drain Sr. laughed, and McCall laughed too. It was perfect imitation, and Dr. Dresser was totally creeped out. He realized that he had made a mistake by visiting the house. Dwayne Jr. obviously hadn't told his father what happened in Miss Starch's class, and undoubtedly he had no intention of telling his father, even if he got sick as a dog from eating at the pencil. "I don't see why you drove all the way out here," Dwayne Sr. muttered. Did my dear old rich ex-mother-in-law call the school or something? Light a spark under your butt?" "No, Mr. Scrod, this was my idea." Dr. Dressler was itching to leave. "I wanted to check on your son, get his side of the story, clarify our homework policy, to avoid further confusion about his responsibilities." "Confusion?" Dwayne Sr. cackled, followed uncannily by his macaw. "DJ ain't confused. DJ, just DJ." "Well, his teacher and I were concerned." Dr. Dressler said, which was half true. Miss Starch hadn't seemed concerned at all. "You should be aware that DJ swallowed a pencil at school today. He might need to see a doctor." Dwayne Sr. snorted. "The boy's got an iron stomach. When he was a little shrimp, he used to eat rocks, oyster shells, lug nuts, even a piano wire. Pencil won't hurt him, that's for sure. Still, I'd feel better if I could speak with him," the headmaster said. "Well, like I said, he's not here. He didn't get home from school yet." Dr. Dressler couldn't hide his concern. "But classes ended hours ago. It's already dark out." Mr. Scrooge, "You got good eyes. Did DJ call to say why he'd be late?" "Just chill out, guy. Wasn't there soccer practice this afternoon?" the headmaster said. "Maybe he's still at the ball field." Dwayne Sr. informed Dressler that Dwayne Jr. wasn't on the soccer team, the football team, the lacrosse team, or any other team at the Truman School. "He keeps to himself," Dwayne Sr. explained. Rides solo, you might say. His granny bought him a cell phone, but I don't believe he's ever answered it. Dr. Dresser felt a sickly wave of He had a mental image of Dwayne Jr. lost in the woods and writhing in agony, his innards full of needle-sharp pencil splinters. This was followed by an equally unpleasant vision of Dr. Dressler himself being fired from the Truman Board of Trustees, and then getting dragged into court by the Scrooge family. Sometimes DJ doesn't come through the door until way late, Dwayne Sr. was saying. "I don't bother to wait up. He's a sensible young man, and not many folks are dumb enough to mess with him." Dr. Drizzler took out another business card and wrote his home phone number on the back. "Would you mind calling me as soon as you or Miss Scrooge hear from your son?" "There's no Miss Scrooge around here," said Dwayne Sr. at the moment. "Oh, I'm sorry. What for? We get by just fine. Don't we, Nadine?" The macaw made a purring noise and nibbled the fry. "Caller, Dwayne Scrooge Sr.'s hunting jacket. Dr. Dressler handed the card with his phone number to the man, who immediately gave it to the bird. "Don't you worry about Junior," he said, letting the screen door bang shut. "He'll show up when he shows up. Good night, now." Dr. Dressler hustled down the driveway toward his car, which out of habit he had locked. While groping for his keys, he heard an animal scurry through the scrub, and he felt his heart beat quicken. The scent of pine needles made Dr. Dressler sneeze violently, and he was startled by a voice from inside the darkened house. "Bless you," Nadine squawked. "Ah, vous sois Chapter 3.